Welcome to A Woman's Clarity, a podcast that empowers financial professionals to better connect with and serve their female clients. Listen in as host Kirsten Schlumbohm, Vice President of Annuity Sales at C2P, and her guests help you speak the language of women clients and meet their unique financial needs and goals.
Welcome, everybody, to C2P's third annual celebration of International Women's Day. Before I introduce our guest, Mary, I want to take the time to practice some gratitude, something if you've been on a webinar with me or on a podcast, it's something I do on a frequent basis. I want to say thank you. Thank you to, number one, the leadership at C2P for empowering and embracing International Women's Day and supporting a woman's clarity. It means a lot to me and to the women who are involved with C2P. Secondly, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the fierce and the formidable, the strong women that are a part of C2P, whether you are an advisor, a part of our support staff, if you're in sales, marketing, training, thank you for being a part of our team. We would not be where we are today without you. So with that being said, I'm excited to have Mary Sterk from Sterk Financial on today. Mary was one of my first guests on my podcast, A Woman's Clarity. But I'm glad to have you here, Mary, because you are a force to be reckoned with.
Thank you.
We're running an all-female financial services team.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You are 22 years as a CFP, which is a very tough designation to get and maintain. You've been at Sterk Financial. It's been around for 20 years. And like Elaine said, you're Forbes' top wealth advisor, as well as number one in South Dakota, 2 years running. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. What a great way to spend this day.
A great way to celebrate 20 years with Sterk Financial by celebrating you for International Women's Day.
There we go.
I want to kind of go back because I don't know if everybody knows your story and how you've gotten into financial services. So let's take our time machine back to 20 years ago. Actually, it's longer than 20 years. So Sterk has been around for 20 years. Do you want to share with us how you got started in this industry?
Yes, I will say that it never in my wildest dreams occurred to me to want to be a financial advisor. I was convinced I was going to be a country music star. That was my plan. So clearly that path didn't go the way it needed to. But by the time I was 19 years old, I was already a divorced single mother with 2 kids under 2 years old, and we lived on welfare. We lived in low rent apartment building. I remember that when I needed some furniture for my apartment, the best day that I had for a long time was citywide dump day, where people would take their used furniture and put it out on the curb for people to take away. That was like a shopping day for me. So I was able to fill my apartment with furniture. And so that was the life we were leading at that point in time. Didn't have any child support, had food stamps, things like that. And I looked around at the low income apartments that I was living in, and I realized a couple of things. One was that for several of the people there that I knew, the only way that they were able to make more money was to have another child in order to increase their benefits check. And 2, I wanted something better for myself and for my children. I didn't want to always have to stay in that environment. And so I decided that in order to help us get out of that situation, I needed to learn how money worked, because I was going to need money, and I was going to need consistent money, and I was going to need to know what to do with money to be able to get out of that situation. To that point, my money training was, I'm going to pull cash off of this credit card to pay this credit card bill this month. So not great early financial training. So I started taking correspondence classes, which kind of dates me a little bit because this was before the internet was actually a thing, and started learning about finance. And I could see fairly quickly that it was like a jigsaw puzzle. There's all these different pieces of a financial puzzle, and everybody's puzzle goes together a little bit differently based on what matters to them. And so I developed this holistic view of finances kind of early on. I ended up getting a job at the Principal Financial Group, and I was really excited about that because I was making like $7 an hour. And that was big money for me at that time. And for that job, I had to get my licenses in order to be able to answer phone calls about people calling in about their accounts. So I had these licenses. And then when I left that job, I thought, well, maybe I can use these licenses and do something with them. And that's really how I got started in the financial industry.
So I really want to have you sing the rest of your answer since you wanted to be a country music star. Are you okay doing that?
That ship has sailed, my friends.
So after leaving the principal, how did you get the inspiration to hang the sign Sterk Financial? And what were your goals at that time?
So I had moved up away from Principal Financial Group up to Northwest Iowa, which is near where I live now. I'm right over the border of Iowa into South Dakota, 1 mile. And that's because if you live and work in South Dakota, there's no state income tax. And I'm not a financial planner for nothing, right? So anyway, I had moved up to Northwest Iowa and I got a job in a little property casualty insurance agency, but I had my investment licenses. So I was like, well, maybe I should try to do something with them. And they hooked me up with, at the time, it was a company called Forbes. And Forbes had a minimum production level of $5,000 of commissions or revenue that you had to generate. And I thought, oh my God, there is no way I'm ever going to be able to make $5,000 in compensation doing this. Like, this isn't going to work, but I got to put these licenses somewhere. Well, I had a gentleman come in who had retired, and he was going to come into the property and casualty agency and talk to me about this retirement money he had. And my entire sales training at that time was I had a brochure for an annuity. I read the brochure, and then when he came in, I showed him the brochure and said, hey, look at this, 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 and this. And he gave me all his money. And I was like, after he left, thinking, well, I'm not sure he should have done that because I really don't know what I'm doing. So that led me to starting my CFP courses because I was like, well, apparently if people are going to give me all of their money to invest, I should probably figure out what I'm doing. So I started getting my CFP classes. I went to a bigger property and casualty shop for a while and built the financial division there. And that property casualty shop I thought was going to be my future, but they eventually sold. So I bought the financial division that I had built there from them. And then that's what started Sterk Financial 20 years ago.
That's fabulous. I love the fact that you started going after your CFP on your own. But through the CFP courses and program, you meet a lot of other people. And you and I have talked about mentors and mentees. So as you were growing in your career path, did you have mentors? And how did they help you springboard from where you started to where you are now?
Well, the mentor landscape at that time was so different, right? There was nothing like this, like Zoom, where you could learn from somebody. So mentorship at that time was either a human that was close to you, or if you would go to a conference. And that, women are a minority in this industry. And early on, all of my mentors were men. And that's because that was who was in the industry around me. And I absolutely credit several gentlemen with taking the time to take a young woman under their wing, taking the time to explain things to me, helping me see the path towards growth. And one of them was very instrumental in helping me see the potential of going out on my own and starting my own firm. And I will never forget that he said to me, you're going to wake up every morning for the next 6 months, and you're going to work harder than you have ever worked in your life to get this up and going. And in 6 months, you're going to look back and say, why didn't I do that sooner? And it was absolutely correct. That is how it went down. He was so totally right about it. I made that bet on myself and the bet that I could create something in this industry, and I was able to. And in a beautiful way, it's just grown beyond what my wildest imagination was when I set out to start it.
Well, I think it's amazing because a lot of times we think about the industry, how it has evolved, and it is still predominantly male. And I honestly believe in having a mentor, and I don't mind if it's a male mentoring a female or female mentoring a male. We all bring a different flavor to this industry. We also bring different talents. So it's an awesome way to learn about the business from a different point of view so you can grow as a financial advisor, as a wholesaler, as a customer service representative. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that.
you're welcome. And I think it's massively important. I think that as I've grown in my career, I've been able to, help figure out ways to give back. And I was one of the people that did help C2P create the mentor program that they have and created in a way that you're able to access mentors for the things that are most important to you at this time. Have those conversations with people that are going to help spark the next level of action for you. And I think that's what's so great about mentorship is that people can help you think differently, see new possibilities, create courses of actions that you might be stuck yourself and not be able to see that, going forward.
And I love a phrase I've picked up on is get comfortable getting uncomfortable. Because when you have a mentor, it helps you grow in ways that you probably didn't even foresee. And as a mentor, Mary, you said that you've learned from your mentees. So it's not
Absolutely.
the one-way street.
Yeah.
And I think I would be remiss. I know we're celebrating International Women's Day, but we're also going to take a minute to celebrate the men who support us, our positive male support. So, gentlemen, thank you for showing up today. Thank you for supporting. And thank you for hiring the next generation of female advisors because we need you together with us to change the voice of financial services. So for a minute there, we're going to celebrate all of you for being on. So thank you. Let's talk a little bit more then about your mentor-mentee relationships that you've had and how you've helped grow other advisors with C2P. Do you mind sharing how they've influenced your journey?
Yeah, I'll use an example of Carolina Alvarado to kind of illustrate that. So she and I had a mentor-mentee relationship through our original broker-dealer at the time, even before we were connected with C2P, but we've been able to continue it through C2P. And, my practice has predominantly been on the individual side for financial planning and wealth management. Her practice was predominantly on the 401k side. And so through that, I was able to learn more about the 401k world and build that side of my business. And she was able to learn more about the individual side and build that side of her business. So that was really symbiotic. And both of us have grown significantly as a result of the relationship.
That's amazing. And I'm going to ask a few fun questions. I know we're talking a lot about financial services and mentors and goals. So what do you do in your daily practice to help you stay centered, focused on your path? Is there a podcast you listen to? Do you have a specific jam that you start your day with? What's your routine?
There's two things. One is that when I get to the office every morning, the first thing I do is I take out a little notebook that I have and I write down what my top three things are. I write down what the next kind of three or four things that are on the task list. I game the system a little bit because I write down how many emails are in my inbox at the beginning of the day. And then I can see what kind of traction I got on that by the end of the day. Cause emails just never ever stop, right? And so if I can gamify it by just playing with the numbers, I do that a little bit during the day. I look at how many tasks I have in my CRM that I need to do and gamify that a bit. So that's one thing is getting myself super clear right when I walk in the office about what's on the docket, what do I need to do today, and what are my top three things. And then I also have a weekly strategic coffee break with myself. So once a week, instead of coming right into the office, I go to the coffee shop and I go there with my journal and I just think about, what are the challenges that I have right now? Why am I feeling that way about them? And what can I do to create clarity around the issue that I'm having? And so frequently I walk out of there with some level of direction about what steps I need to take to move forward in whatever challenge I'm having.
So I at the end of my day write down the top 5 things I want to accomplish the next day. So that when I sit
Okay.
down at my desk, I know what I want to cross off. I start a little bit early to cancel out the noise of email. But I love the taking the time to have that conversation with yourself. I do that when I go running, and people probably think I'm a little insane because I'm talking to myself. And I'm like coming up with ideas as I'm running. So I love the fact that you are strategizing with yourself so that you're hitting your goals. So when you're defining your goals, how do you define success for yourself and your team? And how can our members at C2P do the same for themselves?
Well, I think one of the things that is very aligned about our practice and about C2P is that concept of taking a holistic view of looking at things. And, companies all have their goals, they have their visions, they have their strategies. The very number one line on our vision sheet for our 1 year, our 3 year, our 5 year goals for the company says to have an intentional pace of growth such that it allows our team to enjoy the journey along the way. That sometimes flies in the face of the idea of more, more, or numbers, 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 but constantly reminding ourselves that it is about the journey. It's not just about the destination or hitting the goal of a number, but we need to enjoy what we're doing. We do have to have some level of fun. I mean, come on. Financial services is not inherently fun, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that's not super fun about this job, but how can we enjoy the journey along the way? A lot of times that has to do with things like enjoying each other as a team, taking time to share stories about clients and where we've added value, not consistently overloading ourselves or pushing our team to the point of breaking because of too much work. So, that's kind of the type of thing that we think about when we set our goals, is having that intentional pace like that.
So, how do you help your team stay on pace without being overloaded? Because if you're the number one office in South Dakota and you're getting all these accolades, type A personalities who are in financial service take that on as an additional challenge. Because if I was there, I'd be like, what can we do to maintain this? How do you help navigate and maintain that inner peace and growth with your team?
I will be the first one to tell you that it is certainly not every day that we're all like super zen and chilled out about things. Like everybody has their days where they're like, oh my God, just what happened? I thought I was going to do this today. My debt just blew up. Now I have 4,000 hours of work that I didn't expect. And I think I have to work all weekend. Everybody has that happen. What we try not to do is set ourselves up for that to be the norm, right? So if we have overload at somebody's desk on our team, they know they can raise the red flag to Amy, who's my right hand. And then Amy is going to help them strategize and figure out, what do you need to prioritize? Can somebody else on the team help out? Can they help pull something off your desk to help you get caught up? Or is it just going to take longer to get some stuff done? Or, you know what, at this point in time, we need to stay an extra couple of hours because we have to power through this. So it's kind of looking at it with that lens. But I will also tell you, I am not the one that does that with the team. Amy is my right hand in managing the company. And that's one of the things that has allowed us to grow, is I don't have a tight control on things. I have somebody that does a lot of that kind of operational stuff so that I can focus on the things that I'm good at, which is building relationships and creating revenue.
So, what I'm hearing you say is you're leveraging the talent within your own team and relying on their strengths to have that holistic approach, not only to each day, each week, each month, but the year so you get your goals.
Yes. Yeah. So they say she has a lot of autonomy within her company. I think this is a little unusual for a lot of groups, in that everybody on our team reports to her and she's the only one that reports to me. So I have no HR responsibilities, except if she's got an issue with something that she wants input on, then I'm going to give that. She handles all the financial, she handles all the operational oversight and processes. And I'm able then to think about, well, what are the ideas for growth that we have? What can we do to build the company? And then I work with her directly to say, here's my 3 ideas. Help me sift through what are the better ones. And then how can we implement these in a way that doesn't break the back of our team, but yet still push for growth while maintaining that balance? It takes both of us, because I'm more of a visionary, like, oh, we could do a whole bunch of things and they each only take 10 minutes. And she's like, oh, no, you can do 3 things because they all take 4 hours. So it's a good blend to have somebody that thinks that way, and the way I think, we meet in the middle and create good synergy.
Since 20% of the industry is female, how do you attract such great talent? And how would you guide or give advice to others looking to grow their network of female advisors?
That's a tricky one. It really is. I did not set out to create an all female firm, and we have had men and women along the way. We 100% of the time always hire the best person for the job. And Sometimes it's a woman, sometimes it's not. Currently, we have a group of 13 women. But I think one of the things that has helped me find advisors that are women is that our compensation system is set up to help women succeed. So women tend to not be as risk taking with money as men are. A lot of women don't respond to just the whole work on a commission, eat what you kill type of environment. So what we've done is we've stabilized income with a salary, and then we have bonuses on top of it for new business that is written and things like that. And that lets somebody know they can feed their family, they can take care of their kids, things are going to be stable. Now, is that the best decision for every business owner? Not necessarily. And I always go into that knowing it's probably going to take 2 to 3 years before that's profitable for me as a business owner. But once we hit that profit point, then it is duly beneficial for us going forward. And I'm in this for the long game, not just for the short game.
With the networking I've been doing for Women's Clarity, one thing I do hear from women is that they don't feel like they're getting the training. Do you do something different when you're training your team and helping them understand that this is a 2 to 3 year growth cycle for them to be chair one or get into this different position that they ultimately want to get into?
I think that's just a big issue, right? Like everybody can always be training up. But one of the things I think we have to do is leverage our outside resources. So utilizing the trainings that C2P has. We don't have to recreate, the wheel here. We don't have to write the new book on how to do stuff. It's already been done. And so how can we leverage what other people are doing to help train our team? But we also make sure that we're pairing up new advisors with a seasoned advisor. We don't release that new advisor to new business until we know we're confident about their sales. But they ride second shotgun on, with seasoned advisors until they're ready. And then we tend to give that person the smaller, accounts to work on until they're ready for the medium-sized accounts, until they're ready for the big accounts to run them themselves. But I will also say this, I don't take any new clients on myself anymore. So every single new client that comes into the firm, even if I do the first meeting, I am introducing that client to one of my other advisors in the second meeting. And then that advisor will be responsible for the relationship for the long term. And what that's creating for me is the ability to have more time to build the firm and the company versus continue to build individual client relationships. It requires a tremendous amount of trust from me to my other advisors not to lose a deal. But I do believe in them because I feel like they've been trained. We're not releasing them to do it on their own until they're ready. And then they've got a very good, track record of being able to do what they need to do to take care of people.
We do have a question in the chat. I believe it's a question our friend Tony Ingracia in North Carolina asked.
Tony.
What's the best technology that people are using to sell their businesses? I believe the first part of the question. Are you using a specific technology that helps your business? And secondly, he knows I'm a nerd for the word. I like to read. So are there any best books that you would advise or you would think that would be good to implement?
Well, we use Smart Office for our CRM, and that's been a game changer. So we moved to that a few years ago, and we spent the money to hire a consultant to help us build it the way we wanted to build it. And what I absolutely love about the way we have our CRM set up is everything is right there at a glance. So all of the time that we spent putting all of the data in, when a client comes in for a review, I don't have to go hunt for anything. All their investments are there. All the beneficiaries are listed. All the risk tolerances for every account is right there. Notes from all of the past conversations are easy and we're able to find them. If they have an RMD coming up, we know what the RMD for the year is going to be. Which accounts are they taking a withdrawal out of? Who's married to who? Whose kid is it? Like it's all right there in our CRM. It is a tremendous amount of investment of time and money to get there, but it is well worth it because data is king. Like if there's anything to help your business run smoother, it's knowing your data. So investing in your CRM is, in my opinion, is one of the best things that you can do.
Awesome. And Tony just let me know that those are ideas for coffee break, but he loves the fact that you answered that. So I'm going to ask the second part of the question, even for a coffee break, are there any books that you're reading or that you would recommend newer advisors to read to help them gain the confidence in this industry?
Okay, so there's two books that I'll mention. One is Atomic Habits by James Clear. So our habits define what our life looks like. I've heard it said that our life today looks like what our habits 3 or 4 months ago were. That's why our life looks like it today. So if you want to change your life, you have to change your habits today to build the life that you want in several months. And Atomic Habits has a number of just really, really great strategies to build the habits that we want to have. A lot of people will ask me, well, what's the one thing you would tell people to really help them move forward? And my answer to that is to make it a habit to focus on the things that generate revenue. A lot of advisors spend an inordinate amount of time focusing on the things that don't generate revenue. Now, I'm not saying we don't have to do that. We do have to do those things, but that shouldn't be our focus, right? Like if you're going to pick your top three, pick the top three revenue generating things and get them done first, and then go to some of the other stuff. So building those habits in a way that's going to propel you forward, it's really important to choose the habits that build success. The second book that I will mention is one I'm actively reading right now. I just finished listening to it as an audiobook, and then I got the hard copy of the book because I really want to dig into it. It's a book called Outlive by Peter Attia, I think is how you say his last name. It's a health book and it's all about longevity, but it's not so much about how do we live longer. It's about how do we have a better quality of life while we're living longer. So they call that a health span, not just a lifespan. How do we have better health going forward? And there's so much noise out there about health and how to improve your health. But I found this book to be particularly insightful. He goes a little deep into the weeds on certain things, which is why I needed to read it with my eyeballs instead of just listen to it because I couldn't keep up with all of the medical jargon while he was, talking in my ear on the audiobook. But there was enough good nuggets in there for me to say that's worth a read after a listen. And I would recommend it to anybody.
I love the fact that you're talking about health because it does not matter how much wealth you have if your health is out of check.
Yeah.
It does not matter. So you have to take care of your wealth. You have to take care of your health. So I love that. If I were to pick a book for women in the industry, the one book I would share is Ladies Get Paid by Claire Wasserman. We have to get over our imposter syndrome because we can do hard things, and financial services is a perfect industry for women. So women, if you've not read the book, even men, if you've not read the book, I would encourage you to read it. It's a great way to help encourage, uplift women who are even thinking about going into financial services. And the secondary book, I reread this every year, is The Energy Bus by John
I've
Gordon.
never even heard of that one. I'll have to write
It's a
that
great
one.
one. It talks about who are you on the bus? Are you the energy or are you the vampire of the emotional vampire? So every day you get a choice to be who you want to be and what you do. So it's a great book. It's a quick read. Since we're wrapping up on time, I'm going to ask you one last question, Mary. If you could go back in time, we're going to go back in our time machine again and whisper one thing to your younger self without changing the course of history, what wisdom or words of empowerment would you tell your younger self?
I would tell myself to fail faster. And that sounds funny, but sometimes, especially if you're more of a type A personality, you're just going to keep going after something and going after something and going after something because you're convinced you can get there. I would allow myself to say, well, that's not working. I don't have to keep going after that and try to make it work. I mean that in terms of a marriage. I would have gotten divorced faster. I mean that in terms of starting my own company. I would have left the PNC shop and started my own company faster. I have had team members that really just didn't work out, but we just really poured our hearts into trying to build them up. I would have let them go faster. So what seems like a failure or if something's not working can often just be a sign that you need to pivot into a different direction thoughtfully and intentionally. But I would do it faster instead of letting it drag out and creating, a lack of an energy drain in my life.
Well, failure is just an opportunity to learn. So thank you, Mary, for sharing that. And everybody, if you did not know, International Women's Day is March 8th. So you have time to plan something. If you haven't planned something, when this podcast comes out, share it. Let your clients, let your teams know that you celebrate and support them in this industry. I appreciate everybody who joined us today. I hope you join us next week on the same bat phone, the same bat station with your good cup of coffee as we talk about leveraging your centers of influence with Dave Buchwald as our guest barista. So thank you for
having me
being here. And Mary, I celebrate you and your accomplishments. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to A Woman's Clarity, brought to you by C2P, an organization whose purpose is to educate, train, grow, and support holistic financial advisors so families can achieve true prosperity. Subscribe now and never miss an opportunity to learn how to become a more proactive, holistic advisor to the fast-growing female client base. Visit c2penterprises.com to learn how we can help support and enhance your business. At the time of delivery and any subsequent publishing, information was deemed reliable but is subject to change by the time of listening or viewing. The contents of this piece include options and projections of C2P, are subject to change, and are for informational purposes only. The information provided in this presentation is not intended to be individual investment, tax, or legal advice.